motherhood broke me open in so many ways that I didn't expect. I burnt out, and it was like nothing I've ever experienced.
Today I'm joined by Zoe Blaskey, coach, speaker and the founder of Motherkind, to talk about self-compassion, healing, motherhood, burnout and what it really means to mother ourselves first.
I'm not going to tell you how to sleep train or potty train or boundaries or discipline. I'm not trained in that. I'm about supporting the woman behind the mother and the transition that she goes through and how can she find her confidence and identity. My work centres on, okay, what's in our control to change? What am I doing that's making this harder for myself? Where am I not speaking up when I need to speak up? Where am I saying yes when I need to say no? Where am I not protecting my energy? Maternal burnout is huge. I remember stood trying to get the kids dressed and I opened the wardrobe. Getting those clothes out and getting them on the children felt like climbing a mountain to me. It's beyond tired, it's beyond exhaustion. That is what burnout feels like. I used to think that burnout was doing too much, and to some extent it was, but what the missing piece of the puzzle was, and I now know, is that it's more about we're meant to evolve through motherhood, and I think our evolution changes with every child, and I believe that every child brings to us different opportunities.
What's one thing you hope your children inherit from your motherhood?
Oh my gosh.
Welcome to Do Not Disturb, the inside story. I'm your host, Simona. Morning ritual you swear by?
Morning rituals go out the windows with kids, I think. One thing I do try and do is, as I try and really connect with them when we first wake up, so like really sort of look in their eyes for the first few minutes and take that time.
Book that changed your life?
So many books have changed my life. Probably Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I love that book.
First word you think of when you think of motherhood?
Matrescence.
One thing you wish every mother knew?
Matrescence.
Do you want to explain to,
Yeah, so matrescence is this word that is becoming more and more known, but when I first discovered it a decade ago, no one had heard of it. And it's just like adolescence, when we go through a huge developmental leap in our lives and our values change, our relationships change, our body changes, our hormones change. It feels like we don't know who we are anymore and we're sort of emerging. Well, matrescence describes that exact same process when we become a mother. So you know those first early years and everything feels different and you feel like you're wearing something that doesn't quite belong to you and you don't know who you are anymore and you're trying to figure it all out and put the jigsaw puzzle pieces back together again. That is matrescence. And I wish every single mother knew about it because it's completely normal. It's actually part of a process.
I learned that word from you and I love it. We had a guest, Sasha Vara, in season 1, and she said after she became a mother, she opened the closet while all clothes fit her already in size. She just looked at them and she was like, whose are these? Like, who is this person?
Yeah, that's matrescence.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought when she said that, connecting back to you. So it's definitely a new identity to take on. Zoe, welcome to Do Not Disturb.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Amazing. I feel like we have so much to dive into. Could you begin by telling us how did it all start? What brought you here? And about yourself a little bit.
Well, it all started when I had my first daughter. She's 9 now. And at the time, the narrative around motherhood, and it was kind of that rise of Instagram, and there were lots of kind of mummy bloggers and Insta mums, and it was all about kind of looking cool and looking good, and these mums just looked so chic, and there was a lot about drinking gin, and the best-selling book was called Hurrah for Gin, and none of that resonated with me. I haven't had a drop of alcohol for 13 years, so I was like, okay, so I can't drink through it. And I didn't get out of my stretchy maternity leggings for about 18 months. So I was like, I'm not into the fashion side of things. Where is a platform or content talking about my inner experience? Because what I found is that motherhood broke me open in so many ways that I didn't expect. It showed me all the patterns that I had been doing that kind of just weren't serving me anymore, like trying to be perfect and control everything and work harder and push through, and none of that works in motherhood. But I couldn't find anyone talking about it, and so I decided that I would, and that's how it started.
I think definitely on this podcast already and in my personal life, if you're a type A kind of person, motherhood just breaks you real hard because you think, okay, I'll just schedule everything in.
That's right.
And like,
yeah, I'll just read every single book, and then I will, because that's what we do, right? We've sort of studied and we've achieved and we've worked, and it's there's quite a linear, I think before motherhood, there's quite a linear correlation between the amount of effort that you put in and what you can achieve, notwithstanding kind of systemic issues and the very real structural challenges. But for me, a sort of privileged woman, that was the line that I had, the equation. And in motherhood, that just did not work anymore.
Even for simple things, like to
really
get to a coffee shop,
things.
like it's like, we might have an accident on the way, or the baby just not in the mood, right? Or toddler has a
that's right. And
exactly.
so I have always been someone who's looked for answers, and so I started to kind of throw away all the parenting books. They just weren't helpful to me. The baby books, the parenting books, they actually made me feel a lot worse a lot of the time. So I had the foresight to get rid of those, and that felt really good. But then I thought, what am I going to replace this with? So I started reading about matrescence. I started reading about the phases that women go through, from maiden to mother to matriarch. I read Women Who Run with Wolves. I read a lot of Gabor Mate. I read a lot of Brené Brown, and I really started to understand what was happening. I really got into self-compassion and understanding how to be kind to myself and give myself grace, which was a new skill that I did not have because I knew how to be really hard on myself. I did not know how to, give myself a break and see what I was able to do instead of focusing on what I wasn't doing. And it completely changed my motherhood. And I felt really passionately that more mothers should know about it, hear about it. I'd always wanted to do work with purpose in the world, and I hadn't found it. I'd kind of done corporate jobs, which I kind of liked, but they weren't my thing. They didn't light me up. I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night thinking about how I was going to sell more, insurance products, which is what I was doing at the time. So I kind of, everything came together in this kind of perfect way that I thought, I'm going to do this. And of course I was really afraid. I think whenever you start something new, you're really afraid.
Especially in the public eye,
In
right?
the public eye, I'm super introverted and never really wanted to be in the public eye. But the kind of passion and the mission I have for it means that that's just part of it. And I've learned to enjoy that part as well now. But I just feel so passionately that we needed a different conversation. And
I still feel like it's still very early
well, this
days.
is the thing. It's a decade in for me now, and in many ways, I'm just getting started. Because when I first started, nobody understood, and I mean nobody, apart from the mothers with the lived experience. No kind of media, press, brands. They were like, "So you're about parenting?" All the time, the PR would be like, "Oh, okay, we'll put you in the. Do you want a parenting column?" I'm not and I used to say, "This is not parenting. I'm not going to tell you how to." Sleep train or potty train or boundaries or discipline like that. I'm not trained in that. I'm about supporting the woman behind the mother and the transition that she goes through, and how can she find her confidence and identity, and how can she learn these new skills that I think we need around self-compassion and boundaries and confidence. And
so let's talk about that. So it all starts with healing, as I understand, and like allowing yourself to just be, I guess, in that state. But you tell us, how do you learn the skills as a mother to support yourself through the motherhood?
I mean, I think the precursor to any change is you get to that point, don't you, where you go, okay, I need a new way here. And that's why I called the book A New Way, because I think there's so many mothers who are like, and I got to that point, and I wonder if you've got to that point, and it's like, okay, something's got to change. And so many mothers use that phrase, like something has to change, and it can be something in your relationship, in your work. It can be so many things that need to change for you to start to feel more in how you want to feel. But because I'm a coach, my work centres on, okay, what's in our control to change? So I always start there, which is, what am I doing that's making this harder for myself? Where am I not speaking up when I need to speak up? Where am I putting myself under way too much pressure? Where am I saying yes when I need to say no? Where am I not protecting my energy? That's always where it starts, is when we get kind of tired of our own stuff and we really want to experience a different way.
Disappointment or starts the change, right?
Yeah, you have, change normally, I wish it wasn't the way, but change normally comes from some sort of pain where you're like, okay, I need this to change now. And that's normally where it starts. And then I feel like the next step to that is, okay, where is the kind of those most painful friction points for me? What is it? Is it in my relationship, in my partnership? Is it in my work? Is it in how much pressure I'm putting myself under? Is it how much I'm trying to do? And really get clear about identifying what that is. And it may be many things, but try and think about, to start with, okay, what's the biggest one causing me the most pain?
And in your practice, is there one that stands out the most?
I think so many mothers really struggle with self-compassion, because they will say to me, I'm failing, I'm doing it all wrong, I can't handle this, I can't do it. And then I reflect back to someone what they are handling and what they are doing. And it's just phenomenal. I think we really struggle to get out of that kind of guilt, I'm not good enough, I can't do it mindset, and into, actually I am doing it and I can handle it and I'm doing way better than I think I am. I'd say about 90% of mothers are doing way better than they think they are. So that's such a foundational skill. And the second chapter in the book I called Get on Your Own Side, because of that reason. So I always talk about this thing, which is hard squared. So motherhood is hard enough already. We operate in societies and structures that don't always, they don't support us. That's just a fact. We're also going through sleep deprivation, matrescence. Perhaps we don't have understanding bosses, partners, friends, family. So it's already really hard. But then what I see so many mothers doing is hard squared, which is we also pile on a load of pressure from ourselves. So it's already difficult. And then we decide that instead of giving ourselves grace and compassion and understanding about how difficult it is, we decide, okay, no, you are failing, you're not good enough, you need to do better. We make it hard squared. And so there's sometimes not so much we can change about the societal, about the sleep deprivation, but we can change giving ourselves grace, understanding, compassion, reframing that inner critic, doing things that actually serve us. We can change that. And that's what I start to, I feel super passionately about that. And I feel super passionate about educating and giving simple tools, which is what all my work does, so that you can be sleep deprived and knackered and you can still learn how to not listen to a critical thought, or how to sit down when everything in your body might be urging you to jump up and tidy or get to another work email. These are really big patterns that we get to break in motherhood. And then we can emerge from our matrescence with a new set of skills that actually serves us really well for the rest of our lives.
And do you feel if you learn this with the first child, once you have second, third child, it becomes easier? Or do you have clients, or you come across cases when it's all over again?
All over again.
That's what I
thought. Were you asking for your personal interest? The thing is, every matrescence is different. You go through a matrescence with every child. I personally think the leap from 1 to 2 is potentially harder than from 0 to 1. Not always, but often, because you suddenly your time is stretched already, and then it becomes much more stretched. So I think we're meant to evolve through motherhood, and I think our evolution changes with every child, and I believe that every child brings to us different opportunities. Like both my girls are completely different, and my first girl has helped me to kind of change and bring out just completely different aspects of myself than my second little girl, who really encourages me. She's just joy personified, and she's really helped me to bring far more fun and joy and light and laughter and silliness into how we live and who I am. And my first daughter, she's just a ball of emotion. She feels everything. She cries a lot. She just is such a deep, beautiful feeler. And so she really helped me to connect to my emotional self. And that was a new skill for me. I kind of love to just ignore my feelings before her.
That's very
and
beautiful.
Just kind of push them down and carry on. And that was not an option with this deeply feeling little girl of mine. I had to really learn to connect to my own emotions, because we can't connect to our child's emotions without first learning how to connect to our own, of course. So I teach all of that in my work as well. If you have no emotional landscape and you didn't have a parent or a therapist or a coach who's taught you how to do that, I teach how to do that, because it's absolutely vital. There's so much talk in parenting about attunement and being able to relate to our children's needs and how that's the foundation for good mental health. But of course, we can't do that if we first can't do it for ourselves, because then we're just reacting to their feelings all the time. So
it
really
sounds
is all
really
about
great, but when your toddler's throwing like a giant truck at you, you know,
yeah,
you need tools to deal with that.
Of course.
Yeah.
And, you know, imperfectly, you know, not every time you're going to react in the way that you want to. But I think if you've got the skills and you've got the education about, okay, what is going on in my body when someone throws a truck or says I hate you, or, you know, has a massive tantrum in the supermarket and everyone's looking at you, you know, obviously we're all imperfect. But I think it really helps to have that little chink of self-awareness, which is like, okay, I can notice what's happening in my body. My body wants to fight back. My body wants to flight, which is where you want to run out the room. My body wants to freeze. My body used to do that a lot in my stress response when mine were little, where I'd almost like dissociate. I couldn't handle the intensity of it. And the moment you get that knowledge about yourself, that gives you self-compassion, because you're like, oh, okay, I'm not doing this wrong. This is just my body's natural reaction to
me,
stress.
knowing that my child is not... I remember actually, I mean, my son is big now, but I remember him throwing a tantrum, and there is a school bus waiting that we need to get onto, and I was in that state, like, what do I do? And then I was like, you know what? He's not the only child who's done that.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Let's take 5 minutes. And for me, that thought, I remember, like, that changed, I think, my whole motherhood. But to me, the thought that it's not us being crazy parent and crazy child. This happens to every child in every family.
Exactly.
And let's normalize that. Let's not be like, come on, let's get on the bus, you know? Let's take 2 minutes.
Exactly.
And it never happened again.
There's a really beautiful practice that I learned from someone called Dr. Kristin Neff, and she founded this mindful self-compassion movement. She's phenomenal. And it's so simple, and I love it because it's exactly what you described. So it's kind of 3-step process. And when something like that happens, she actually has an autistic child, and she developed this on an aeroplane when he had a massive tantrum and she couldn't contain him. And she just kind of, she actually couldn't. And she turned to herself and she did these 3 things. And she said, she's now researched it and developed it into this incredible practice. And the first one is that when something like that happens, is you label it as a really hard moment. Like, this is actually really hard. Like, your child tantruming outside the school bus when it's really hard. And the moment we label that gives us so much compassion. And the second step is you remember that there's nothing wrong with you, and that every single parent has experienced this or something similar. You're not special, you're not unique, you're not different, and nor is your child. And then the third one is you say something really encouraging to yourself. Like, you can handle this, you've got it. And it takes about 20 seconds, but I do that all the time, and it really helps with how I'm able to handle those moments. It's called self-compassion break, if anyone wants to look up the kind of research. It's very well researched in terms of how it can just set you on a different trajectory in those really intense moments.
100%. And the wild thing to me is that, you know, I'm sure it's not just me now after a decade of parenting, but all of us think it's like, it's me, it's my child, you know, I'm the crazy one. And then especially on an airplane, you get those eye rolls.
Yeah, airplanes are the worst. Oh my gosh.
Like, how are people still rolling eyes like at you? It's normal. The child is screaming, probably their ears are under pressure.
Yeah.
Like, there is a lot of things going on for that child. There should be nothing but compassion around them. But then moms especially end up feeling like, I'm such a bad mom.
Yeah.
And then what kills me, if there's another mom with a baby, I would always like be so compassionate. But then myself, I have seen eye rolls by other women. And I'm like,
yeah,
how is this still happening? Like, how are we not in the sisterhood in the 21st century? And actually on our channel as well, the comments we get from other women, I was shocked. Like, in my brain, we are in 25th century, I think, but I didn't expect other moms or women commenting negatively.
Yeah, most of the judgment and the criticism is kind of mother to mother, woman to woman, and I've really sort of looked at this and thought, why is that? Why is judgment in motherhood so high from other mothers? And what I've come to see is that it comes a lot from insecurity, I think, particularly when people are judging different parenting choices. So we don't tend to judge another person when we feel completely secure and confident in our decision and in ourselves. We just don't. Like, if you can think about something that you felt just completely like, oh no, I know that's the right decision, and then if someone else in your life has made a different decision, it's very easy to think, oh, good on them, but I feel really secure about this. The converse is true. When you're like, I'm not sure if I've got this right, like maybe it's about sleep or eating, and then someone is doing something differently to you and maybe kind of saying, no, you need to do it this way, that is when that judgment comes up. So because insecurity is so high in motherhood, because all of us are questioning whether we're doing the right thing.
Because there is so many conflicting messages
That's
in
right,
the world.
that's right. And that's where that judgment comes from. Instead of turning that onto ourselves and saying, it's okay that you feel completely unsure about this decision, that actually takes quite a lot of emotional regulation, emotional maturity and emotional awareness. It's much easy to not do that and to say, well, she's got it wrong and that's ridiculous, and who raises their child in that way.
But I feel like when we see motherhood in the public, we only see a glimpse of
Yes.
that moment.
Yeah.
And then to extrapolate it onto the life, or even like school choices, there is so much judgment, like, oh, they're going to Waldorf, or oh, they're going to State, or oh, they're going to... That works for them now.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, that might not work for them. You know, it's so personal. There's a lot of factors into it. We don't know what people are going through. Just let them be.
Yeah, I think this is why I teach really knowing what your values are in motherhood and life, because when you really know who you are through your matrescence, so you kind of engage with me or Motherkind or something like it, and you get a really strong sense of like, no, this is who I am now and this is what's important to me. It does really help with turning down all that volume, because it is so difficult, particularly if you make a choice which is countercultural, you know, around schooling or diet. You know, any of my friends that raise their children vegan or sugar-free get so much judgment around screens, anything that's countercultural. And, you know, it's just hilarious, isn't it? One friend, you know, lots of people judge her for giving her children too much sugar and they kind of have all the sweets that they want. And then I have another friend who doesn't give any, and they both get the same amount of judgment. And it just goes to show...
You can't get it right.
You cannot get it right. And so the moment you kind of realise that and accept it, it's like, okay, I can't win. I can't win in the eyes of society. I can't win in the eyes of even friends and family. So I'm just going to get on my own side and back myself here. And hopefully you've got a partner on the same page, and together you could do that. But even if you don't, you can absolutely just back yourself and think, I'm just going to choose to back myself in this.
Quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation, take a second to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps us keep bringing you these honest conversations that rarely happen but really matter. Now, back to it. I'm very interested in the partner dynamic on this. I've been a single mom for a long time, so but it is very interesting. How do you align with your partner on your values if they are different from the start? Because a lot of couples, even if they're super happily married, once they have children, they're like, wait a second, we need to figure out
It is massive, honestly, and I've been through this as well. I think it's normal, is the first thing to say. I think to expect two individuals with different histories, triggers, values, pressures to have the same response to a child is unrealistic. That's the first thing I would say. So I think we need to normalise that. And the second thing is that Dr. Shefali, who's just this amazing parenting coach who mentored me for a while, and she's been on the podcast a lot, and I really like her perspective. And I was talking to her about this, and she said, you know, it's absolutely fine to have different ways that you and your partner parent. That idea that you have to be on the same page about every single interaction is unrealistic. What's important is that from a really big perspective, your values do align. But when it comes to those kind of decisions, like my husband does things all the time and I think, I would not have done that. I think you're being way too hard on them for that. Or, okay, you're going to let them do that. But I keep my mouth shut because I know that our big picture values are kind of tracking in the same direction. I actually think it's quite healthy for children to see that difference and the way that two individuals will have different perspectives. I think that's quite healthy, and there's lots of kind of psychologists and research to back that up. So I think as long as you're tracking in a big picture way, around schooling, I think if one of you, loves sort of very mainstream maybe kind of boarding school and one of you wants to do free schooling, like obviously that's going to be an issue, but I would say that's not an issue about your parenting. That's like you are two very different people.
But even then, probably there is some middle ground for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
Open conversation.
Yeah.
Can solve that.
Open conversation, compromise, talking it through, realising there's no perfect way, drowning out the noise of your families if you've got very opinionated families on kind of one or both sides.
This is very hard.
Very hard, very important. Coming together.
Great. Something you talk a lot about is motherhood burnout.
Yes.
Should we talk about that?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us what it means? Because to me, whilst I understand it, it's like, can I even admit I need a break here? Like, it's a hard thing. We don't treat it as a job in this society, although it is, right? We know the workload burnout, motherhood burnout. We don't know. You're supposed to love your kids and jump around and be happy mummy all the time. So.
Yeah. Well, the maternal burnout often doesn't come from that caregiving role. It comes from all the other pressures around the caregiving role. So I think that's really important to name. And I think, maternal burnout is huge. I've experienced it actually when I was doing Motherkind, which was really humbling because in theory I should have had all the tools and seen it coming. But it was a time when I had 2 little ones. It was just post-pandemic. We were doing a huge relocation from London to be on the south coast. Work was huge. I didn't have childcare. My husband was kind of busy doing his business, and I burnt out, and it was like nothing I've ever experienced. It's beyond tired. It's beyond exhaustion. It is I remember stood, trying to get the kids dressed, and I opened the wardrobe, and I just cannot. It felt like getting those clothes out and getting them on the children felt like climbing a mountain to me. Honestly, that is what burnout feels like. I used to think that burnout was doing too much, and to some extent it was, but what the missing piece of the puzzle was, and I now know, is that it's more about, are you releasing the stresses that you're building up? And I think about it like a sponge. So we can actually absorb quite a lot of stress as humans. We can take on a lot as mothers. We can take on jobs and our families and caregiving and mental load. But if we don't wring out that sponge at the end of every day or kind of every other day, that is when we can trip into burnout. So it's called completing the stress cycle, because stress is a cycle. So we're not stressed, we have a stressor, we experience that stress feeling, but then we are supposed to complete the cycle and release it. And that is what I was not doing. I was just kind of putting the kids down, working, getting up the next day, doing it again, and doing it again. Now I release the stress every single day. So it takes 5 minutes. It can be like shaking it out. Me and the kids do it in the kitchen. It can be a hug with someone you love. These are all kind of the scientifically backed ways to do it, which releases oxytocin, which counters the cortisol. 5 to 10 minutes really intense exercise. Connecting with someone you feel safe with. Tiny, tiny little practices that are...
They go a long way.
They go such a long way. And this is why I really reject the idea of sort of self-care in motherhood being about kind of hair, nails, spa days, because none of that is actually scientifically proven.
And that's another work. Like, I find that's
work.
Another thing I need to book, to go, to find time for, right?
Exactly.
It's a lot.
It's lovely, but it's a luxury.
Nails,
it kind of doesn't touch the sides really in terms of the amount of stress that we absorb. So we have to get into this practice of every single day in some way completing that stress cycle and releasing that stress. Some of my clients, go to the end of the garden and somatically like roar it out. That is so powerful. Or, any type of breath work, super powerful. And when I learned that, I learned it at the right time, because then of course I had the book, and the book was launched during the summer holidays. Again, I didn't have enough childcare, but I was absolutely fine, because every single day I was wringing out my sponge so that I could do it again the next day.
And then I love this concept of sponge. I did not come across it, but if you have that concept in the back of your mind, then you can take it one day at a time.
Exactly.
Rather than, okay, because I am a kind of person, I'll be like, let's push through the week of recording and then I'll
That's
rest.
exactly what I did. In a couple of months, it'll be fine. I just got to dig in. And you hear mothers saying this all the time, don't you? I've just got to dig in for a couple of months. When I get childcare, when I get... And yes, to some extent, that's absolutely right. There are times in our lives when we just have to dig in. And that is even more than the time when you have to take 5-10 minutes every single day just to release the stress. It's so simple. I write about it extensively in the book. It's called Completing the Stress Cycle, if anyone wants to look up this kind of studies and research behind it, if you're that way inclined. But it's absolutely vital. It is more about what we do every single day than what we do kind of, a couple of months down the line.
I like that. Me and Ad, the editor, will be shaking next time when we are recording our episodes.
It's great between, even as you shift from, so as I shift from kind of work mode into, motherhood mode, I will kind of shake off the day physically, or I'll just kind of release it. Yeah. And it's really important to do those transitions as well.
I was pushing through the season, and yesterday I just collapsed and I fell asleep on the sofa. I was, it was too much. It just caught up with me. Whereas listening to you now, I'm like, if I took 20 minutes a day, for a walk and just...
the difference would be phenomenal. Yeah.
I'm doing it season 3. I'll let you know how it goes. You talk a lot about burnout. What about breaking cycles? Is that part of what we discussed now? You talked about generational healing and breaking those cycles.
Yep.
I think this is the biggest programming to undo in ourselves. No matter how much I try, and I love my mother, I bring her up a lot on this podcast, but no matter how much I try, I end up more and more like her every year, It's a really hard cycle to break, especially when you have children. You kind of naturally fall back into your comfort zone.
That's right.
How?
Teach me. Well, I think the first thing is awareness, isn't it? So getting super clear for yourself, which, sounds big. I don't think it is big. I'm a coach, so I'm all about sort of fast, pragmatic, looking forward. I think if you went into kind of psychodynamic therapy, you could spend 20 years on this. I ain't got time for that. So, everything...
Kids will be grown up.
Exactly. Later. It's like it's over. Everything that I teach is kind of grab a piece of paper, have a think about, and there's an exercise in my book called Debits and Credits, and I love it because I think it's really easy to think about just the debits, which are the things that we weren't so great and we want to change, but we always have to look at the credits, right? Because we want to be really intentional about the things that we want to pass on and the parts of ourselves that we got from our family that were incredible. So it's called Debits and Credits. You've got a piece of paper, you've written debits at the top, credits on the other side. And with debits, you want to think about, right, what were the things that I needed that I didn't get and that I want to pass on to my children? So the huge one for me was around emotional language, emotional literacy, connecting to feelings. Feelings in the 80s when I was growing up just was not a thing. And that meant that I had to go and learn about that. And I can see, looking back, the kind of costs of that, some decisions that I made. I didn't know how to connect how I really felt. I ran from my feelings at times. I escaped into overworking because I just didn't know how to connect to the emotional part of myself, right?
We all did.
Right. Yeah, quite normal for our generation. So I have that in my debits column, which is like, that wasn't great. That's a kind of debit of my experience. And so I really want to change that. I really want to change that for my children. That means I'm going to have to do some work. And that's all breaking a cycle is. It's just learning a new set of skills that you didn't get. So, okay, so that is something that's a gap. How am I going to fill that gap? Okay, well, I'm going to have to learn about emotional regulation. Where am I going to do that? I mean, it's easy for me because I set up a podcast where I get to speak to experts, and I'm every single episode is like selfish because I'm just learning what I need to learn. So how am I going to
feel the same way, right?
Right. How am I going to plug that gap? And then you might have a debit around, confidence. I never felt confident. I never saw confidence modelled in my family. In fact, it was kind of the opposite. Like my parents or my caregivers or whoever, it would chip away at my confidence. I want to break that cycle. So then you're like, okay, what does confidence mean to me? Who can I go and learn confidence from? How can I model it to my children? And what I think is just phenomenal as parents and as mothers is that we get to do it alongside our children. So I say to my girls, we're learning together self-worth. Like I'm learning it and we're learning it together, and I'm learning from you and you're learning from me, and we're kind of growing up together with the gaps that I have. But then equally, we want to look at the credits. Like, my parents gave me some incredible things that I am so happy they gave me. They gave me so much determination and self-belief and tenacity. And my mum gave me just this ability to really connect with people. And so those are all on my credits list. And I'm like, how do I really intentionally pass those on down the generational line? And so this is kind of simple. It's simple but not easy. So you have this kind of debits and you have this credits, and then you decide, right, okay, my focus is on whatever it might be, emotional landscape, and then you go away and you think, right, this week, what am I going to do about it? Next week, what am I going to do about it?
And do you review that list often?
Yeah, all the time, of course, yeah. I mean, if you're into personal growth, if you're listening to this podcast, you're going to be into it, then it's never ending, isn't it? But I think that's a really good thing. I'm always like, how do I grow? What do I need to change? What's coming up? You know, what are my children kind of triggering in me? What are they struggling with that I might need to learn about? So my 9-year-old kind of going through some friendship stuff. And so that's such an opportunity for me. Okay, what, you know, how can I support her? But also, what's my relationship with friendships like? Where have I kind of given my power away? And, you know, where's the credits and debits for me there? And how can I help her maybe do things differently than I did?
That's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah.
I have not done that exercise, but I feel like tonight on the airplane, that's what I'm doing.
Do it. Yeah, I'll give you a copy of the book. Oh, no, actually, I haven't got it with me, but grab a copy of the book.
Yes.
And yes, and it's kind of super simple.
Let's talk about the book.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about the book. How did it come about? You know, what are the chapters? Why do we read it, apart from everything what we discussed so far?
Yeah, so it's everything that we've discussed. It's called A New Way to Thrive in a World of Endless Expectations. And it was really important for me to talk to that endless expectations, because there are endless expectations that we put on ourselves and that the world puts on us. So the new way to thrive in that is really a lot of what we've spoken about. It's about understanding matrescence. It's about understanding that you're going to change. That's okay. That's normal. It's about learning to get on your own side, maybe for the first time ever, being kind to yourself, seeing what you are doing, not what you're failing at, really becoming your own kind of inner coach and inner champion and inner best friend. I also talk a lot in the book about how to manage your energy, how to complete the stress cycle, how to set boundaries and say no, how to find true confidence. What even is that?
Means,
How to be present with your children when there's a million other things that we want to be or need to be doing. What does that even look like, and why does that matter? I mean, it's really a sort of modern day guidebook for, I call it thriving, but for wherever you're at, to get you, you know, into that survival point and then all the way up to feeling really sort of confident and happy, and you know who you are, you know what matters to you, and you're starting to make decisions every day and in line with that. That is the transformation that the book will give you.
There is this device I carry with me everywhere that really steals the presence from my children. I start to hate it. It's giving me huge resentment. So I actually recently started like leaving my phone at home when I'm going for a walk, because the temptation is so
I'm the
hard.
same. If it's with me, I'm looking at it. So I put it in another room now. When I do special time with my kids every day, which is kind of 10 minutes uninterrupted, directed by them. I am completely focused on them, and when I do that, the phone has to be in another room, because there was a study that came out about a decade ago that showed that even having your phone out reduces connection by 30%. So you're not even on it, it's just there, because what it really is like at any given moment I could be drawn to that, and I know that if I hear it buzz, I'm like, what's that? Is it a friend?
Just in the back of your mind.
It's always. So I think that's the way. It's obviously not all day, every day. That's not realistic. But for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, I try and put it away so that I can have that pure presence and that pure connection. And there's just mind-blowing studies on this. So Harvard Family Center, they do so much phenomenal research on and longitudinal studies on, you know, child development and connection and parenting, and they showed that children that have that sort of uninterrupted 10 to 15 minutes special time, it's called, have a 47% increase in emotional resilience. Isn't that phenomenal? Just from kind of 10-15 minutes of focused time. So it's not necessarily about, I think we have this idea that it's about the hours that we spend with our children. No, 15 minutes completely focused, like you are the most important thing in my world right now is far better than hours of sort of distracted, half there, half not, in a minute, yes. Like, this has really changed how I live my life and I do motherhood, is that I'm super boundaried, and I try to be, when I'm at work, I'm not doing emails while also playing, while also cooking the dinner. It's just a recipe
It's something
for disaster.
I learned halfway through. Yeah, multitasking is something
No.
which mothers are forced to do in the beginning, I think, of their motherhood. But by the time my son was 4 or 5, I said, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
It drives me mad. That's where the burnout comes from. There is no self-compassion in that place where you're cooking on the phone with a toddler.
I mean, it happens at times, doesn't it? Of course, like, life happens, and, you know, we're all imperfect. But I think even that intention, or even knowing that kind of tool of special time, has really, really, really helped me. And I've seen it change the connection to my kids as well.
I'm glad you clarified that, because when I used to hear word, you need to be a present parent, I was like, I have to cook, I have to clean, I have to work, like, I cannot be a present parent. Although I work from home and I'm fortunate enough, you know, to be there, I'm not always present. But the idea of having 10 minutes and what you started with today, I asked you what was your morning ritual, and you said just looking in the eyes of my children. I was like, this is so great. Not, you know, I wake up, I look at my phone like most people. Yeah. But then maybe put the phone away and just look at your child and be like, instead of let's go, it's
well, this comes
time.
from a study called 9 golden minutes. Do you know about this?
No.
So there's an amazing neuroscientist called Dr. Jack Prakar, and he looked at this around this kind of special time, and he broke it down even further into these 9 golden minutes of the day, which, when we can be fully present for these 9 minutes, we can build that secure attachment in children, which is what we all want, them to feel self-esteem and confident and good in the world. So the first is the 3 minutes when they first wake up. So just look
3 minutes.
3 minutes, just, you know, how was your sleep, looking at them. There's no phone, there's no sort of rushing, and it can feel so hard, especially in the morning, but I think 3 minutes just feels really doable. Everyone can do 3 minutes. The next 3 minutes is when you first reconnect after the day. So when you pick them up from school, or you pick them up from nursery, or they walk through the door, you are 3 minutes kind of getting down on their level, looking at their eye. How was your day? Tell me something funny. How are you feeling? Whatever it is, tickling, you know, whatever. 3 minutes reconnection. Because it's so easy, isn't it, when we pick them up from school, and I'm super conscious of this, you know, I've got lots of friends at school, and I'm sort of chatting to them, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm sort of getting the kids, and they're not really even acknowledging them some days. It's just like, right, let's go. And so I really try and be a bit more intentional, whether it's at the school pickup or when we get in the car. Like, I don't start the car for 3 minutes, and I'm kind of turning around and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, how are you? Like, what's going on?
Wonderful.
And sometimes I don't get much back, and sometimes I get loads back, and it's all good. And then the last 3 minutes is before they go to bed. So it's not to say that you have to do all 9 minutes every day perfectly. Of course not. We work. We can't be at every bedtime, every pickup, every drop off. But I think just having that idea in our heads is really helpful.
I love those
it's something
ideas.
to aim at.
And it's so doable.
It's so doable. You know, this idea that you're going to kind of be present. I had a client once, and she was like, I feel so guilty. I just, you know, I'd played with him for 3 hours, and I had to go and make the lunch, and I felt so guilty. And I was thinking, this is insane, that this is what we've been told is kind of present parenting. When we look back at how we used to parent back in the day, you know, when we were hunter-gatherers, when we live in small communities, mothers would only spend about 20% of their time direct one-on-one with their own child, because there would be so many other involved caregivers called alloparents. And I love looking at this, like, how is our brains and our biology actually designed to do this? It was never designed to have 8, 10, 12 hours one-on-one with a child. It's just not natural. So I think the more that I can remember that, take these tools like these 9 golden minutes, remember that my biology is designed to do this in community with other involved caregivers. That's how it's supposed to be. It really helps me to have that compassion for myself and just see it all in kind of much better perspective, and I can be way easier on myself.
And that's the goal, you know, to be easier on yourself. And then everything is going to come out better from that. One belief that's grounding you right now about motherhood?
Ooh. I can handle any challenge that my child faces.
This is a very strong one. and a very grounding one. One habit or mindset shift that changed your motherhood experience.
Oh my gosh, so many. But I think the one around I'm not failing for finding this hard, it just is really hard. That really helped me.
I'll write it once I'll have the baby. Yeah, I'll put it on the wall. What's one thing you hope your children inherit from your motherhood?
Oh my gosh, confidence.
Great. And you said you're working on it, so hopefully. Advice to mothers feeling stretched thin today?
Self-compassion.
Perfect. That's it. Hope you like that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, it's great.
If you love this conversation with Zoe, please share it with a mother or a friend who needs a little reminder that they're not alone. You can follow Zoe at Zoe Blaskey and tune into the Motherkind podcast wherever you normally get your shows. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Do Not Disturb.